Welcome to Success Superstars, episode number 157, your place for inspiration and the blueprint of success for peak performers just like you. My special guest, Mike Simonsen from Altos Research. Mike, welcome.
Hi, nice to see you, Mark.
Hey, great to see you, and always great to hang out with great minds like yourself. Now, tell us a little bit about Altos and how it came about.
Sure. So Altos Research we track the housing market. We track every home for sale in the country, all the pricing, all the supply and demand, all the changes, and we bubble up those analytics for people who care about such things. So, we work with thousands and thousands of realtors and brokers around the country to get data into the hands of their buyers and sellers. We also work with big institutions. So a lot of the big technology providers in the space and big investors and lenders and people who have exposure to the real estate market who need to understand what's happening right now in the market, where the traditional headline data, the solds is like last month or the month before. It's really lagging before it gets into your hands. And so that's what we do.
Yeah,
started the company
for data geeks, they love it, and for I'm sure it's expanded beyond that. But how did it start, and what prompted you to want to solve the problem that you solve?
So I'm an original data geek. I've done data software my whole life, and actually almost 20 years ago now, I bought a little old piece of junk Silicon Valley house with a giant mortgage, and at the time, this was 2001 when we bought that house. I'm 30 years old and I got this massive mortgage, and it was in Silicon Valley, the NASDAQ bubble, like, it was massive, and when that broke, home prices in Silicon Valley were tanking, and I needed to know what was going on with my mortgage, and I happened to start being able to look at the listings and build models, and I actually built it like the fundamental analysis for my own needs as a homeowner, as a buyer and homeowner. And then I just did it personally for a bunch of years, but in about 2005 or so, we really realized we had better insight than we could get anywhere in the world, and we decided to commercialize it.
So it was born out of your own need to find out the value of your own home and what's going on in your marketplace. And
Yeah,
you grew, and you probably started sharing it with friends, and they thought, "Oh, this is cool."
that's exactly right. And it's what's interesting is that it's my need, not just about is my mortgage underwater, which is a pretty compelling thing when you ask me, you need to ask that question, but also, I always had questions when, as a buyer, we'd have we'd have, it was, at the time, you would have to have the printouts of the listings. You go and your agent would go and so they would say, okay, we're gonna go look at these 4 houses today. And my questions I would have are is that a lot? Do I need to act quickly? What if I lowball this one? And what I learned was a really good agent knows these answers in their bones. It can communicate it very well. But most of us need to be able to use the data and go, oh, look, yes, we're going to look at these 4 today, and that's all there is, right? That's a different message from we're going to go look at these 4, and there's 50. And so that kind of insight is what the data shows.
Right.
That was really useful to me, and what I ended up turning into the product that other people could use too.
Yeah. Well, before I want to get into the current market and conditions, and everyone wants to hear about that, but as an entrepreneur, I'd like to explore a little bit further about, as a successful entrepreneur building a business from scratch and now very, very successful. I mean, have you ever wanted to quit?
Yes, it's been a long journey. The company's 15 years old now, and we've gone through all kinds of ups and downs, as one does. I, in fact, I'm in the process of writing a book on some of that journey. I've done some work on, I call it hacking happiness, and it's how we can be purposeful with our internal biochemistry, our neurotransmitters, to create the conditions for success. I went through a period of like not interested, unmotivated, and I had to do some real internal work to really revive that joy, the joy in what I do. And so it's been a really amazing process in the last 4 or 5 years. And so we're here now.
When does the book come out?
Hopefully in about within the year. We're
Okay.
working on it. Got a lot of work to do.
So happiness hack. So, what I like about the transparency is so many people look at people like yourself, successful CEOs and founders of companies, and say, gosh, it's so easy and they're so successful, but you actually went through a journey.
Yeah, and I often will actually do like a keynote talk, and I've done it with a bunch of realtors and a bunch of real estate organizations, and we're in a high performance industry. We are very driven on sales, and got to build your plan, and you got to work to the plan, and you got to hit the goals, and those are all productivity. They're reasons we talk about those things. However, one of the observations that I found was that in a internal biology way, setting those goals and working the plan is a function of a chemical called dopamine. We set a goal, we hit it, and it feels good. We have a tendency, if we focus too much on the numbers and that process, we have a tendency to neglect some of the other elements of our joy that lead to really the impactful success. So these are our serotonin and our oxytocin. These are elements of we do this work because we like to help people. We love, I know realtors who, love to put people into their forever home. And that is a very different source of satisfaction than hitting the numbers.
Right.
And so my work is about how do we balance, how do we bring all of those things together? And it was something that I had to rediscover for myself. And so I noticed a lot of realtors, a lot of agents are get into a hollow and really successful but kind of miserable. And so that mix is something that I'm helping people learn how to achieve.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to see the book and learn from it. It's so important in this business. You've hit another problem that has to be solved in the industry.
Yeah, it really is, and so I can't wait to share it with you.
Yeah, awesome. I can't wait to see it. Well, let's move in a little bit to the current market. We're going into a market. We entered into 2021. Don't hold me exactly to it, but almost half the inventory of what we've had traditionally. And I think you showed some data all the way back to 2017 that showed that each year there's kind of been a reduction.
Yeah, in fact, there's been a reduction year over year since we came out of the bubble burst. So 2011, each year, fewer and fewer homes available. And in fact, we're at about a third of where we would be, mid-decade, a normal time. So normally you come into the year with like a million homes, single family homes on the market. And right now we're at 340,000, almost nothing. It's amazing.
Amazing. Now there's a perfect storm. Folks were concerned about COVID and maybe people coming in the home, and so that backed out. We had some lenders who pulled back on building permits, but we've had these low, incredible interest rates combined with professional jobs, many that haven't been affected. So you still have folks that have purchasing power, and all of that has come together to create strong demand and no supply.
Yeah, that's right. And the big trends. So we had COVID and the pandemic impact, but the big trends are predate the pandemic.
Okay.
So we've had, low interest rates for a decade. The average of the last 10 or 11 years is 4%. And when rates are in the threes, all of a sudden it becomes a really affordable transaction to, when I go to buy my second house, I keep my first one for an investment property. Both those payments are low.
Mhm.
And when I do that, each year that, more and more people do that, then those homes aren't listed for sale. There's fewer and fewer homes listed for sale. And then of course we have some institutional buyers that have been going over that time as well, buying up single family homes. And so because rates have been so low, it's been a really good decade to do that transaction, to just buy the second one, hold the first one,
Right.
and double up. And there are 7-8 million more homes that moved from resale market into rental only in the last
Oh,
decade.
wow. So people
And
are building some wealth through real estate.
that's right. I feel
Mhm.
like it's been a good idea, but the downside, or the impact, is that there are many fewer for sale. Now in the last year, rates tanked even further, and all of a sudden, at 2.8%, having two loans is the same as it cost for one loan not
Right.
that long ago.
Yeah.
So I might as well just buy the second house,
Yeah.
and now I own two. The one time in the decade when we had year over year inventory increase was at the beginning of 2019. We had 8 months in 2018 of rising rates, and we went from 3.8% to 4.8%. And in that climb created year over year inventory increase for the whole first time in the whole decade. And so it's really been an interest rate driven phenomenon. And then COVID did some weird things on top of it. But the fact is, money is as cheap as it's ever been.
Yeah, and that's a long-term trend. So the other trend, Mike, to talk about is millennials. I think there's somewhere near 70 million in the population, and the millennials are coming into home buying age, right?
That's correct. So yeah, and when people ask me about, you know, can this last? Can this boom time last? Obviously interest rates will do what they do, but demand wise, millennials, there are more millennials than any other generation, even the boomers, and they are now 35. The first of them are 35, and that's peak home buying years. The millennials were famously slower to buy than boomers, but they also had lower selection. The boomers were holding on to multiple properties, and so the market has been tougher for them. But they're now, mid 30s, peak earning and peak home buying years. So we have really a solid 5-10 years of that demand still to come.
Still to come.
And so that's bullish, for the next decade.
Yeah. So based on the data you see, I mean, what would you be coaching and advising real estate professionals or consumers? What's your outlook for 2021? What would you, let's say for me, what would you be telling me as either a real estate professional or as a consumer?
So the question I get, one of the questions I get all the time is it going to last? And so that demand curve is really encouraging. Um, the 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 other question, I have a lot of folks now asking, should I wait? The fact of the matter is, because as rates are really low right now, while yes, home prices have been climbing, and yes, there's competition out there, payments are actually, affordability is actually better than it was a year ago because rates have come down so far, like so dramatically in that year. Um, so in that sense, the opportunities are still there, and they still make a lot of sense. For real estate professionals, there are, we have millennial buyer opportunity, and we may finally be getting to a point where we have boomers who are ready to unload some of these assets as the boomers go to 75, 80 years old. We now, fingers crossed, have that kind of opportunity to, well, like, capitalize on that equity, and be able to do some generational change in the property. So we have some hopefully some opportunities going on there.
And maybe some of the institutional investors that own some big blocks may decide that, hey, the return has hit their thresholds and unleash some of the inventory they're holding for rentals.
That'd be interesting to see. Yeah, and that may be, while home prices surged this year, in a lot of places rents did not.
Right.
So we had a shift to buying, and so if you're a big institutional rental company, maybe if that trend holds, that then says let's capitalize on on the asset rather than on the if revenue is declining per asset.
Yeah, and so for the real estate professional working the non-owner occupied and having conversations with this is a great use of your time. And if you're a consumer and you own some rental properties, you may want to talk to a real estate professional and see what's possible.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
Yep. Now, tell them a little bit. I know if we go to Altos Research, your website, we can download a kind of a white paper on how to use it and why it matters.
Yes, we wrote an ebook for agents, and it's about how to use real estate data in your business. And when we talk about we talk about the numbers, and people, especially right now, everybody wants to know what's going on. So at Altos, the thing we do is the data comes out every week, and you can as an email, as a lead nurture or a long-term lead nurture. And immediate lead follow-up, you have this opportunity to put the reports in your spheres inbox, to put it into social media and click through and convert them from friend to actually somebody who's interested in transacting, using that market data. So everybody's interested in how's the market, what's going on. I've got an opinion about and so you get really high open rates on it. So our ebook teaches about not just about how to read the data, but also how to communicate the data, and when to use it in the listing presentation, and scripts for the conversation on the phone. So we've captured all that in the big ebook. And so at Altos Research, you can just go grab it and connect with us and learn those things.
Yeah, download it. Now, maybe I'll put you on the spot. If I had a webinar where I got a couple hundred of our agents on it, would you come and maybe spend 30 minutes with us and walk us through the ebook?
For sure, absolutely, would love to.
Okay,
so we're
get that session booked here in the next couple of weeks, because that would certainly be powerful for all of us to increase our skill of how to appropriately use this data with consumers in the marketplace.
Yeah, I find there's a handful of agents who are like in the data, but there's a lot of us who are like what's the chart, what do I say, like there's a lot of questions like that, and so we can teach how to answer that. And really, like a lot of the things, having some of the scripts in front of us makes it really effective that way.
Well, because for so many of us, it's just not natural, and what you do is make it easy and natural for those that it doesn't come easy to us, that we can use it and explain it effectively without having to be, the data geek.
That's right. That's exactly right. We're the data geeks. You don't have to be.
Yeah. All right. Well, any last words of wisdom before we wrap up this episode?
Oh, let's see. Well, here's looking to a nice fast recovery for Texas, for the people of Texas, after the big storms this week. And, I think we have, so we're in this crazy period, all kinds of craziness going on, and information is the antidote to fear. And so consumers are afraid to transact. They don't know what to expect. They have all kinds of crazy opinions about what the market might look like. And that's the power of using the data. And so, if you get that opportunity, make sure you put it in people's hands.
And that's altos.re.
Yep, or altosresearch.com, either one.
There we go, either one. All right. Well, with that, we'll wrap up this episode. Mike, thanks for pouring into us today and sharing all your knowledge.
Mark, always a pleasure. Talk to you soon.